All right, welcome back. Are you ready to dive into designing a life worth living? I am so excited that you're here with me today, and I really want to acknowledge you for taking the time to focus in on what matters to you and what it is that you want most in your life. I find that so often the place that we tend to get really stuck is in the place of clarity. And it's always the first step on any journey is deciding where do we want to go, what do we want to create, and what do we want it to look like. So during our time together today, I'm going to invite you to grab a journal, take some notes. In just a couple of minutes, I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to actually show you a copy of the Courageous Creative Journey Map so you can see that and walk through that process with me. But I wanted to just invite you to maybe take a moment to just pause, to celebrate yourself for being here. If you need to pause the video and grab a pen and a piece of paper or your journal, you're definitely going to want to take notes along the way. And you might think about getting in a place that allows you to get quiet for a little while and really think about the answers to the questions. Because your journey matters. And enjoying a life that you love also matters. And no matter where you are in the journey right now, there's always a moment in time where we're longing to go in a different direction, or we're longing to take more time off, or we're longing to create something new with more meaning and purpose. Maybe you've worked really hard to get to where you are in your career, and suddenly you're looking around going, I don't really know why I'm doing this anymore or what I want to get out of it. And you're looking to just revive your passion for your life and for your career and to figure out the next steps on your journey. So wherever you are in this moment is perfect. And I want to remind you that inside each and every one of us is an amazing intuitive voice. And that the more that we stay connected to our own inner wise woman, then the easier the answers will be. And I had a recent experience where this was so true for me. And sometimes, even though I've been teaching this forever, I forget as well. I was invited to go teach at a retreat in Costa Rica, but it was coming up really quickly. The turnaround time was crazy short, like 5 or 6 weeks. And I found myself really getting caught up in my head and trying to decide if this was a good opportunity. Of course, I was experiencing a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out. What would happen if I didn't go? Would I get invited again? So I went into a little bit of ego around the whole conversation. But when I really stepped back and looked at, is this in alignment with what it is that I'm creating this year? Is it the right moment in time for me to go and do this? And are these the right people to be spending my time with? The answer got clear really quickly that it was a no, not right now. So oftentimes we tend to say yes for things because we want to belong, we want to be of service, we want to show up in community and connection with others. And we forget to pause for a moment and make sure that the things that we're doing are most in alignment with our core values and with the journey that we're going on together. And I've been doing this work for a really long time. I'm one of those definitely been on the personal development train for most of my life, ever since I was in high school. I've read a lot of books, done a lot of work, but I let my career really take front and center for a long time. So first of all, I went to school for a long time. I love school. I'm definitely an education junkie. I have a PhD from Stanford University in 19th and 20th century Latin American poetry. I thought I was going to be a college professor for life, but my journey took me down an entrepreneurial path. I started a parenting magazine, and I did that for over a decade. And then for the last 6 or 7 years, I've been coaching other women in how to make their professional dreams come true. And I really started looking at, in my own career, at those pivotal moments of how did I make decisions? How did I choose which direction to go? And a huge part of it was really just slowing down and listening to my inner wisdom first, feeling into what's going to really matter. But mostly it came down to these 11 questions that I'm going to ask you that are part of our Courageous Creative Journey Map. And because I've been able to really do this work, I've made some really fun things happen over the last 5 or 6 years. I started a painting practice, which took me by surprise. And then I started selling my art because I just followed my wisdom. I followed and trusted that I needed more creative play in my life. And I started drawing, and then I started painting, and then I started sharing my paintings. And it's turned into this fun, just side thing that's I do for me. And when it sells, it's wonderful and amazing. And on the career side, I have written a dissertation. I have written and published 3 books. I created a planner. I created a coloring book. And people are always asking me, how do you get so much done? And I think a big part of it is consistency, that I'm really good at managing my time and taking action. But a lot of it has to do with the crystal clarity around what's in alignment with the goals and what am I moving towards on a daily basis. And where I have often struggled the most is making time for things outside of work. In fact, my daughter said to me one time, when I was painting, she said, "Mom, you painting is just like you working." And I can feel it in my gut now, right? That sense of, here's my daughter. And at the time she was probably, 13, she's 17 now. And she was really asking for more connection and for me not to work really hard all week and then paint really hard all weekend. And I realized that even though I was saying creativity was such an important part of my life, I wasn't making it a regular part of my playtime during the week. And so I would save it all up for the weekend, but then it became just like another thing to do. And it was really about finding, I don't like the word balance. I'm trying to figure out, it was really finding ways to make self-care critically important, like as important as work, as important as taking care of kids and husband, right? I really had to look at how I was managing not just my time, but my energy. And I really started to see the ways that investing in creative pursuits just totally fed and nourished me and became my form of meditation. It became my way of finding creative ideas and innovation for what was next. And so the map that I'm going to share with you has been used over and over again, both by me and by my clients, to get clear about what matters most. Because once we're clear about what it is we want, then we can create a plan. But this is the tricky part of the journey often, is clarity. And if I hear anything from my clients over and over again, it's that they don't have clarity on the plan. But sometimes it's not the plan that's missing. It really is clarity around the vision and the goals. So that's where we're going to dive into and work through today. And I just want to say to you, no matter where you are in your journey, you're probably in the perfect place. And if you've found your way to this video today, then you know it's time for you to take a new step, to do something completely different. And it may be that you go on that journey alone, or it may be that you decide you'd love to be part of a community of women who are all carving out their journeys together and are really wanting to circle up and create a sisterhood of support that helps them get there so we don't feel like we're all by ourselves. After almost 20 years of being an entrepreneur and then a decade before that in academia, there have been so many times when I felt isolated and alone, like people didn't really understand the journey I was on. My family didn't understand. And I mean my extended family. I'm incredibly lucky to have an amazing husband. We're about to celebrate 23 years of marriage. We have a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old kid, and our family is so important to us, and our relationship is so important to us. And so where you are right now and whatever it is that you're trying to create, it's important and it matters. And you don't have to do it by yourself. So at the end of our time together, I'm going to share how you can just have a conversation with me. There's not going to be any big sales pitch or offer made at the end of this video. There's simply going to be an invitation to have a conversation with me to see if getting some support might help you get that dream going faster than it would happen if you were trying to do it all on your own. So if you'll give me just a minute here, I'm going to share my screen and I am going to walk you through this Courageous Creative Journey map. If you're watching this on your phone, it might look kind of tiny. So you'll see a link below this video to download the PDF blow that up a little bit, to download the PDF version of this, which includes a blank version of it as well, so that you can start playing and really designing your courageous creative journey map. And this is just the first stage of the journey. And the first stage of the journey is all about clarity around the who, what, why, where, how, all of the details of getting from where you're sitting right now to where you want to be going next. And I've used this for planning businesses for people for a really long time, but I also use it for creating new lives and new careers, because we all need a tool, a proven tool that will ask the right questions. This, to me, is the value of this process, is knowing what questions to ask to see what parts of the journey are going to be easy, and also to connect to the parts of the journey that may be a little challenging and may take a little more time. And so I'm just going to dive right in to the process, and we're going to start right in the center. Actually, I'm going to back up for a second. I get so excited about this stuff. I just want to keep going. So you might notice, or you might not, it doesn't matter either way, that the shape of this planning process and this mapping process is a mandala. If you're not familiar with what a mandala is, I'm a little obsessed with mandalas. And mandala, the word, is a Sanskrit word that simply means circle. And the concept of the mandala is present in every historical, spiritual tradition throughout history and across time. And it represents both the whole of your vision as well as each of the individual parts. And it's why I chose it as the first layers and first stages of this mapping process, because it's essential that you can see both the beautiful whole as well as each of the individual parts that make up the whole. And I also love that mandalas are playful, they're fun, they're colorful. And when it comes to planning, not all of us love to plan. Some of us adore planning. Maybe I've got some total spreadsheet geeks listening right now, which is brilliant and perfect as well. But I find that when we let go of linear thinking and we begin to think in kind of circular, more mindstorm, brainstorm ways that are less systematic, then we start to see the connections between things in different ways. If I had just given you a bullet-pointed list of these questions and asked you to talk through them, you might not see the connections in exactly the same way. So I put a lot of time, energy, and thought into this idea of seeing the process as a mandala. And I think once you start working through it, you'll start to get it. How each of the layers build on, each of the steps build on each of the previous layers, so that by the end of the process, you have this gorgeous, holistic perspective of what needs to happen and exactly what it is that you want to create. And I always start right in the center. And I like to think of the center of the mandala as being really about the core of who you are being, as well as crystal clarity around the goal you're trying to achieve. So even though that little circle in the center looks tiny, it's actually the bullseye. It is what you are trying to dream up or create. And the first stage of the process is simply to define, what is that bold dream? And the thing about this is that I love about this process is you might write something down here and it might change completely by the time we go through the whole mandala together. So I invite you to be super courageous and just write something down right now. You could write it in pencil. You could write it on a sticky note. This is not at all about perfection. It's about connecting to your inner wisdom and starting the conversation with yourself about what it is that you want most. So take a deep breath. Just pause for a moment and think about, what is your bold dream? And that bold dream could go in that circle in the form of just one or two words. It could be write book, travel. It could be time with family, new career. There's so many things that could go in that circle, but there's only one thing that should go in there right now. And you might be thinking, but I have so many ideas and so many dreams. So for now, I want you to write down the one that just popped into your head instantly when I first asked the question, what's your bold dream? The second part of this inner circle of really connecting to your vision is to get clear about what I call your creative brilliance. So here's the thing, we're all creative. We are all, as a human species, innately creative. It's what sets us apart from every species on Earth. The form that your creativity takes might be artistic, might be painting, might be writing, might be cooking or gardening, but it might be spreadsheets and numbers. It might be science. It might be technology. Every single career, every single line of work requires an aspect of creative brilliance. And it's important to really connect to what's at the core of your creative brilliance. Oftentimes we get caught up in our education, our training, our degrees, our certification. Trust me, I am an information junkie. So I have a bachelor's, a master's, a PhD, and about 7 different coaching certifications. I'm an input junkie. I received Fulbrights to go and study, both in Mexico and an awesome program for teachers in Oregon a number of years ago. I understand the value of education, but none of those things really are at the core of what my creative brilliance is. Even the painting isn't what my creative brilliance is. It's fun. Am I a genius at it? Not yet, but I'm working on it. But the truth is that your creative brilliance is the thing that is unique to you, that is effortless, that happens like magic. And oftentimes when people compliment you on it or comment about it, you kind of poo-poo it because it's so effortless and easy for you that you don't tend to value it. And it's probably that thing about you that people have commented on since you were a young child. So one of the things I get feedback on all the time from people is that it feels like I'm in their head. I really get them. And it was kind of funny after the 3rd or 4th time I heard someone say this on the phone to me, wow, it's like you're in my head. I kind of clued into how intuitive I am and how empathic I am, and that I'm brilliant at asking the right questions to help people get to the core of what their experience is in the moment. And I think I've always done that, right? I've always been incredibly curious. I would say curiosity is another aspect of my brilliance. And I'm very curious about people. And I love helping people make connections to themselves, connections to others, right? So digging into what is it that you're best at and that you do all the time, almost as if it's as easy as breathing or riding a bike. So the next circle, the big light blue circle, is your core values. And to me, this is probably one of the most important layers of this entire mapping process. Being able to identify your 3 to 5 core values. And I heard someone say this recently, and it sounded really intense at first, but I think she was right. I always say that your core values are the guardrails of your journey, right? They're the guardrails along the map. So you can bounce between the guardrails, but they stop you from going off track completely or going down detours or doing things that aren't really aligned. And she said that your top 3 to 5 core values are the ones that you would die for. And I think she's right. These are the ones, the things, the ideals, the values that I stand for, that I'm willing to make more important than anything else. So some of the things that show up on my personal list are creativity and fun. Things like authenticity and integrity, communication. At the core of everything that I do, of every business that I've owned, and I think I'm on my 3rd, maybe 4th. I had a couple that didn't really go anywhere, but I've had a lot of ideas, but I am in the process of creating my 4th business right now. And what I have learned along the way is that integrity for me is a lot about wholeness, as much as it is about doing the right thing, about really fully bringing all of my gifts to whatever game it is that I'm playing, whatever it is that I'm doing, which is both a gift and a curse, right? Sometimes our greatest gifts have a shadow side that we have to explore. And another thing that's at the core of everything that I do, that my husband and I do as business partners, is education. And not just education for ourselves, but education for others as well. Because in education, especially in the context of literacy, because we know that when everyone knows how to read and write, they have a choice. They get to make decisions. Things can't happen to them. They get to be able to speak up and speak out. And this is really important to us, that literacy, we feel like, is one of those absolute must-have skills around the world. So it's something that we work towards, is how can we support causes around literacy? So from your core values, you're going to go up and look at what's your big why. And if you haven't read the book or watched Simon Sinek's YouTube video about Start With Why, then I highly encourage you to do that. I have a variation of getting to know your why, especially in the context of your bold dream. Like, it's incredible to have these big dreams, and it's exciting. My husband and I have these big dreams all the time, and a lot of them get kind of, left by the wayside or stuck in a journal or evolve slowly over time. But not every big dream that we have can happen right now, nor does it need to. We just love the dreaming process, right? But how we make that decision about, is this a dream that we're going to pursue right now? Is it a project we're going to pursue, or a new business that we're going to build, a new book that I'm going to write? I have like 5 ideas for new books right now, and I haven't yet committed to which is the next book I'm going to write. So for a while there, I was being really consistent, writing about one every other year. And I'm due this year for a new book, but it hasn't felt aligned with my big why yet, which is this big vision of supporting women and reconnecting to their creativity. Because I truly believe that when each and every one of us is working in the highest and best form of creative expression, we can solve all the world's problems. As the Dalai Lama said, the Western woman will save the world. And I believe that. But I believe that in order to do that, we're going to call on the entirety of our gifts, the fullness and wholeness of who we're being in each and every moment. And it's going to require us being connected to our most creative selves, to our most innovative selves. So I would ask you, what's your big why? What do you want the world to look like when you leave it, right? What do you want your legacy to be? And sometimes that big why isn't about changing the world. Sometimes that big why is really deeply personal. Maybe your biggest why is sending your kids to college. Maybe your big why is moving home to be close to aging parents. Maybe your big why is retiring early, or that sabbatical on Bali that will leave you refreshed and renewed and super creative to take on whatever that next project is. So your big why can be big, it can be small. There's no judgment about the big why. But what makes the big why unique? And this is very different. I'm sure as professional women, a lot of you have really connected to this idea of your personal mission and your personal vision. To me, this is even deeper than that. This is the thing that gets you out of bed every single morning, even when the going gets rough, especially as you're mapping a new journey and heading in a new direction. There's going to be detractors. There's going to be people who don't support you. There's going to be people who are asking you lots of questions. There's going to be days when there's going to be potholes and detours and big mountains to climb over. And your big why is that motivating factor that gets you out of bed, to the coffee or the teapot, and gets you rolling each and every day, because you know that every step that you get closer to your bold dream, you are living that big why. This is a really essential part of the process. So I'm going to go counterclockwise around the circle here together. And the next one is to ask yourself, who do you need to become? Who do you need to become? Do you need to be more confident, more visible, more quiet, more rested, more creative, a stronger leader? Who do you need to become? And of course, as we're becoming and stepping in to our own bold dreams, we also need to look at, what do you need to let go of? The thing that I hear most often around this question is, I need to let go of doubt. I need to let go of fear, lack of confidence. I need to let go of procrastination. So there's a lot of things that will show up repeatedly on our journeys that will kind of be like this, somebody standing in the middle of the road waving a flag, and they're pausing you and causing you to slow down. And most of the things that when this is happening, it's internal. And when we really dig deep and connect to our inner wisdom, we'll find the confidence we need to wave that person or that feeling or that belief aside and keep going anyway. So this is where connecting to your inner wise woman is incredibly powerful. And one of the most fun, playful ways that I can share with you to connect to your inner wise woman is to create a collage that represents her, or just find an image of her. And I don't mean a vision board, right? This is not about a vision board. This is something that has no words on it. It could be done digitally, or it could be done in a journal or on an index card. But to create a visual representation of your inner wise woman that you can dialogue with, that'll remind you how to connect to her intuition, to her strength, her confidence, that will hold you honest and within the arms of your big why. It's a really powerful process for connecting. And in all of my workshops that I do with women, we use a lot of collage work to go on this journey together. It's so incredibly powerful to add these visual aspects to the inner work that we're doing, because when we let go of words and we connect through images to our own inner knowing, we get to the answers so much faster. So I'm a huge fan of doing collage work as a tool for working our way through the courageous creative journey mapping process. Why did I make that name so long? It's kind of long. I might have to just change it to something shorter. I'm open to suggestions. You can type in the messenger chat and let me know. But I love courageous creative journey because I feel like that's what we're on. It takes so much courage to let go of what's no longer serving us. Sometimes that's beliefs, sometimes it's habits and practices, and sometimes it's people. Sometimes it's people, sometimes it's jobs, sometimes it's whole cities, and we find ourselves having to move to new locations. But getting really honest with yourself in this moment, what do you need to let go of? And the relief that you feel when you begin to let go is masterful and powerful, and will help you move along your journey so much faster. So moving around the circle, the next question is, what is the impact this will have? And what I mean by that question is, when you're living that bold dream, or even when you're working very consistently and committedly towards that bold dream, what's the impact that you want this to have? And that impact could be personal, could be an impact on your family, your career. That impact could be global and connected to your big why. But what I know about living bold dreams, and I'll share again a really simple example of me and my painting. The more that I make art, the better I feel, the happier that I am. The happier I am, the more energy I have to give to my husband and my kiddos. And the more excited I am about tackling the other challenges that may be showing up in other areas of my life. So the impact of a regular painting practice the painting practice itself sounds really small, but the impact of it is huge. It also leads me to go on painting retreats. It leads me to taking art supplies everywhere that I go when I travel. So it has an impact in every single area of my life. And so another example, another bold dream for me this year is writing a new book. What's the impact the book will have? Well, it will have a lot of impact. It has the opportunity to change people's lives, to touch people with my story. It has the impact of getting me maybe more speaking opportunities, more training opportunities, more recognition, more visibility in my community online and here locally in Santa Barbara as well. So something as simple as writing a book can have a big impact. So when you're thinking about impact, think about the impact it will have on your personal life, your career, your family, and what impact do you want it to have globally, if any. So no dream is too big and no dream is too small. I think sometimes we think that when we're on this deep quest for meaning and purpose in our lives, that it has to be like this huge magical thing, like eradicating world hunger or creating world peace. And what I want to say to you is that our contributions to those global challenges like poverty and hunger and disease and peace, start with one person. And that one person is you. That one person is you. And every time you touch one other person, that person touches two, who touches 10, who touch 100, who touch 1,000, and on and on and on, creating this magic rippling effect that's incredibly powerful. So if you get overwhelmed or feel daunted by this like desire to change the world, just notice that any journey, right, begins with the first step. And every person you touch contributes to the impact of your journey and that connection to your big why. So no dream is too big and no dream is too small, but all dreams start with one small step. The next question is, this is where we really start to look at the actual planning part of the mapping process. So far, we've looked at a lot of like, who am I? What do I need? What do I want to be? Like, this is the inner part of the journey. Now let's look at the outer part of the journey in the mapping process. And first, you want to ask yourself, what form will your adventure take? So maybe your big, bold dream was for a new career, but you don't know what form will take. This is your time to start diving deep and asking some questions. Well, what form do I want it to take? A book is an easy example. Painting is an easy example. Having a year-long sabbatical somewhere in the world is a great dream, but vague. So what form will it take? And the more successful your dream will be, really flows from how tangible the form of your adventure will take. Because once it has form, like a piece of clay, you can mold the form. You can add to it and take away, and you can start that more linear process of planning how to make it happen. So this is the point in the journey where you get to ask yourself, what form will it take? And if you don't know, this is a great place to type "talk to Manette" in the messenger chat, and let's hop on a call and see if we can't help you get some clarity. As I said, is my creative brilliance is helping you get the clarity that you need. These kind of brainstorm conversations are totally my jam. I have so much fun with them, but it's important to understand the form it will take. And once you understand the form, then you can look at what's the timeline for making it happen. This bold dream, is it something that you want to happen tomorrow, which may not be likely since it's a big, bold dream? Even if it's a small dream, it may take some time. So getting a clear timeline in place for making it happen is an essential part of the mapping journey. And as you're looking at your timeline, you might want to have an end date for when you want the bold dream to be a total reality in your life. Because once you know what that actual active date is, then you get to work your way backwards to figure out what needs to happen. And what I find happens for me, and actually I work with a lot of creatives, and so I see this happening over and over again with my clients, is that we're way too aggressive in our timelines, or we give ourselves way too much time. And I've seen both sides. I have one client who is an amazing woodworker. And what I've noticed with her is she gives herself too much time to get things to happen. And when there's too much time in the timeline, it gets filled with non-essentials. It gets filled with things that are taking us away from our bold dream and that destination rather than towards it. And sometimes that timeline can be too aggressive. This is the thing that happens for me. I don't give myself enough time. So I end up working long hours and working really hard to get something done when the only person setting the timeline was me. So I've learned to get a lot better and to help my clients get a lot better at really looking at managing your energy, at managing your time, and managing your tasks. So everything is moving together or moving forward with grace and ease and not a lot of stress, right? The whole point of the bold dream is to bring you joy, to bring you delight, to design that next adventure. This is not about creating added stress in your life. It's about creating spaciousness, grace, and ease. And once that timeline is in place and the form your adventure will take is crystal clear, then you get to get really practical and ask yourself, what resources do you need to make it happen? And resources could look like physical resources, supplies, office space, airplane tickets, right? So there's the tangible, tactical things that you need to make your bold dream come true. There's also intellectual resources that you might need. Do you need to go back to school? Do you need more education? Is there something you need to learn? Do you need to invest in coaching or training in order to help you create that? You might need financial resources. How much money is going to cost? What I found in working with a lot of entrepreneurs and creatives over the last couple of decades is that when we're not clear about the resources that we need, we don't ask the right questions, and it slows down our process, or we spend all our money along the way. So getting really clear about the financial aspect of your bold dream is super, super important to its success. If all you need is time and a day off a month to spend at the beach by yourself, it may seem that the financial piece isn't as important, but connecting to what will you gain financially from having that peace of mind is another perspective for looking at this. So again, you want to look at what physical resources you need, financial resources, intellectual resources, and what human resources do you need to make it happen? What kind of support do you need to invest in? Maybe you need a web developer and an editor. Maybe you need someone to just hold your hand and go to the beach and play with you. There's so many different forms that human support looks like, right? So there can be tangible, practical, help you get it done people, and there can be moral, emotional, and sister circle support that needs to happen as well. So getting clear about what are the resources that you need to make it happen are all part of this important journey that we're going on. And as you're looking at this process right now, I can see those little wheels spinning and you're thinking, wow, this is a lot of work. This can be done in one 30-minute conversation with me. We can literally get on the phone and walk through this entire process to get you the clarity that you need and understand what the next steps that you are. So you'll notice that the final circle is who's on your support team. I would love to be on your support team. But what I'm asking for here is, who are your besties? Is your spouse supportive? Is your family supportive? Do you have already accountants and financial planners that you can go ask financial questions to? Do you have legal support? Who's on your team? Excuse me. Who's on your team already that you can celebrate? Right? There may be spiritual support, sister support, again, family support. Who's on your team? I think so often it's important to really connect and remember that we have more support than we think we do. As successful, busy, active professional women, oftentimes with kids or boyfriends or spouses, right? There's other people in our lives that we forget to pause and just take a moment to be really grateful for the support that we have on our team. So who's on your support team? So as I said before in the handout, which you may have already downloaded, there's a blank version of this map for you to start playing with and to use over and over again. I personally love going through this process on big poster boards or big sheets of paper with sticky notes and markers and lots of colorful crayons and colored pencils because I love the creative process. And the more you allow yourself to engage in the creative process, the more you're going to pull out of this. But if you're looking at this and you're going, this looks like a lot of work, or I don't have the clarity that I need, I want to invite you into a courageous creative conversation with me. This is a no-risk conversation where I am going to personally walk you through the courageous creative journey map. We're going to get some clarity, help you decide what the next steps are. Because once you have this beautiful visual of your map, then we need to figure out how are we going to make it happen? What are the next steps? Maybe you know what your core values are, maybe you don't, and you need some help really figuring out what that process is. During our conversation, we'll work through a core values assessment and help you get crystal clear about the place. And as I mentioned, in the last almost 20 years of being a business leader in my community, both first in the Dallas, Texas area and then at Santa Barbara, I have worked with so many other professional women and really helped them to get on the path to what it is that they want to create most. I have worked with physical therapists working for Head Start on Indian reservations in Montana, who this woman was incredibly, incredibly passionate about helping teachers and educators to see the brilliance in children with special needs and to see them as having special abilities, not special needs. I have worked with artists and designers and leaders. And so this process works. It is intuitive, it's organic, it's fun and playful. I think we can never have enough play in our lives. I've been doing this for a really long time, and I cannot tell you how much it would be my honor and my privilege to walk through this courageous creative journey map with you personally at no cost to you. So my normal coaching rates are around $250 to $300 an hour, depending on the packages people are investing in. And I have to tell you, I personally, in the last 5 years, have invested close to $100,000 in my own coaching because I understand what it looks like to have a coach on my team, to get the support that I need, to have someone in my back pocket that I can turn to when the going gets rough, to remind me of what my big why is, or to help me get the clarity I need on my next steps. But I really want you to get that this conversation with me is my gift to you, because I know how hard it is to feel like you're working in isolation, to not have the clarity that you need, to have this longing for something better, something new, and something different, and you're not even sure what that is. So again, I would love to invite you into this conversation. Right below this video, there's a little button that you can click that says Talk to Minette. It will pop up a link to my calendar. You can schedule a time for a courageous creative breakthrough conversation. And let's figure out, what is that bold dream and how are we going to get you there? And at the end of that conversation together, if you decide you want to continue working with me, I have a variety of ways that I can do that. I am not into a hard sales pitch. What I am into is showing up in service. And I'm extremely grateful for you for taking your time today to be here with me, because this is my passion. This is my bold dream, to help women find the highest and best expression of their unique creative brilliance and to share that brilliance with the world in ways that do lead to global change and impact. So if you're ready to design a life worth living, it would be my pleasure to have you join me on that journey. I'll see you there. Bye-bye.